Mark Anthony, you're a theta healer.
Absolutely. I teach the modality, and I also see clients as well.
Okay, now tell me whereabouts you based?
I'm based in Sydney. I did run workshops around Australia as well, predominantly Brisbane at the moment. And
great. So tell me, how did you find theta healing? How did that come into your life?
Well, it's a very interesting question. A few years ago, I was working in the building industry, really enjoying my time there, and I got to a point where I was just feeling very run down. So I was recommended to go and see our chiropractor. He performed a manipulation. Shortly afterwards, I felt this pain across my back. The next morning, I rang him up and said, whatever you've done, just fix it, and went and saw him a few more times to no avail. The following week, I went and saw the doctors. The doctor sent me for a bone scan, and what they found from the bone scan was there were 4 fractures across my back, 1 on the left rib, 2 on the right rib, and 1 on the vertebrae. So it was just a matter of 6 to 8 weeks, you'll be better.
How did you get that?
It was just from the manipulation.
So the chiro damaged your back?
Yeah.
Unbelievable. So what happened there?
Yeah. So from there, I had to rest 6 to 8 weeks. After 8 weeks, I was forced to give my business away. It was very financially difficult for us at the time, and I ended up going back to the doctors and organising a back x-ray. I went for the back x-ray when the radiologist came out to give me the results. He sat a fair distance away from me, and he said, Mark, you can go and see your local doctor tomorrow, but he's going to do the same thing for you. It looks like you've got tuberculosis, and there was an infection in the vertebrae that was actually eating away at it.
How'd you feel?
Oh, I was devastated. Luckily enough, I didn't know what tuberculosis was.
Right.
That was a positive.
So what happened then?
From there, I ended up in hospital. They conducted a fine needle biopsy, and no results came from that biopsy, so they decided to do another biopsy where they'd just cut 3 holes in my side, put a camera in there, take a sample of the infection. Worst case scenario, there'd be a cut that big. I came back. When I came to, there was 2 tubes coming out my side where they actually collapsed my lung, and the tubes were there to drain the blood that was there. I was on a drip for morphine, and I've got a scar that big across my back where they did this biopsy. And a couple of days later, the doctor comes in and he says, Mark, the good news is you don't have cancer. The bad news is we didn't take enough sample to test for anything else.
God.
So from there, I more or less, they wanted to repeat the procedure 7 days later. So at the time, I had orthopedic surgeons, I had cardiothoracic surgeons, neurosurgeons, and infectious diseases doctors. So I more or less told them, if you're going to go back in the next 7 days, then make sure all 4 of you are there so you get enough for everybody.
Good thinking. Wow.
But during that time, and it turned out to be a very lucky thing for myself, I actually got a fever in hospital. Australian medical system, if you get a fever, they have to treat you. So what they decided to do is put me on a 6-week treatment of a really high dosage antibiotic. Now, before I started those antibiotics, the infection level in my blood was 125. Normal levels are 0 to 15. So I took that 6-week treatment. At the end of that 6 weeks, they did another blood test, and the infection level in my blood was still 125. So it hadn't shifted at all. They organised another fine needle biopsy for me, and again, no results came from that. So we were left in the same position. So the infectious diseases doctors decided that what they were going to do was put me on the same high dosage antibiotic plus another one, and it was just going to be every 3 months they'd monitor it, but we'd be doing monthly blood tests as well, and it was just going to be a long-term procedure. Now, because they didn't know what the infection was, they called it vertebral osteomyelitis, which is just a bone infection. The neurosurgeon told me before I left hospital that if I pick up a shopping bag, it'll collapse my spine. When I got home, I looked up on the internet what vertebral osteomyelitis is, and one of the first things it said was that if it's not treated, it's fatal.
Okay. So
after the 6-week treatment, I go back, the infection level's still the same. It gets a whole new meaning to that. If it's not treated, it's fatal. So from there, I was they decided to, put me on the 2 antibiotics, and it was just that treatment. I went and saw my naturopath, and she gave me a book. She said, "This is a course I did about 5 years ago. There might be something in it for you." So I took this book home, started reading it. I must have gotten through about 5 to 10 pages and thought, wow, I need some more of this. And it turned out to be the book was called Go Up and Work with God by Vienna Stiebel. And I looked up her, found her on the internet, found a practitioner in Australia. So 2 days later I booked a consultation. In that consultation, half the pain in my back was gone. To give you an idea, I couldn't lay down for too long, I couldn't sit down for too long, I couldn't even stand up for too long. I'd get about an hour's sleep a night with a heat pack between my shoulders. Thank God for Foxtel at that time. But it was a really scary time in my life, and especially with the young family, not being able to carry my daughter. So I half the pain was gone in my back. The following day I set the workshop. The following weekend I did the other workshop. So I had a consultation and 2 workshops within a week and a half, and I was completely healed after that. That first day that I had that consultation, I stopped all medication. At the end of that month, I went back to see the doctors, and the infection level in my blood was 2. So it had gone from 125 down to 2. I'd stopped the medication, and it was just from the ThetaHealing.
What do you think happened?
It was an instant healing. It was a miracle.
Really?
I was blessed with a miracle, and since that day I've been blessed with the opportunity to be able to witness many miracles on other people.
When did you realise you had an instant healing? At what stage did that hit you? When did you suddenly...
I had the consultation, and the amount of pain that dropped, I knew that there was a shift there. There was a definite shift there. It was just emotional issues that we worked on. So then once I sat that weekend, at the end of that weekend, I was completely healed by the downloads that Vienna had channeled for us that are actually contained in that workshop.